Chapter 1. News of Victoria Vance and Julian Hawthorne's engagement spread like wildfire, met with blessings from across the internet. Everyone expected me to break down, perhaps cause a scene. After all, I'd spent 10 years trailing after Victoria like an obsessive follower. They all thought I was desperately in love with her. No one knew I had been waiting for this day for a decade. I wanted them to get married more than anyone. Victoria and Julian's wedding was a grand affair, captured by hundreds of cameras and live-streamed by major influencers. OMG. Finally seeing President Vance and Julian make it official that other man must be furious, ha ha ha. It wasn't easy for President Vance and Julian to get here. My Julian finally married the love of his life. If it weren't for that vicious man, President Vance would have married my idol long ago. But maybe his presence helped our idol realize his true feelings. Sobbing this is so moving, President Vance. You have to be happy with Julian. Hope that man doesn't ruin things today. The live comments flew by. I glanced at a few and lost interest. They were either congratulating the couple or cursing me out. The old me would have fired back instantly, but 10 years of this had immunized me against the malice. I hid in a corner, eyes scanning the surroundings, praying, hoping that today's wedding would proceed without a hitch. To minimize my presence, I'd deliberately chosen an outfit completely unlike my usual style. Just for today, I'd play the part of a gentleman. The venue buzzed with excitement. I spotted Victoria's parents up front, along with Julian's parents, my father, Frederick Clark, and my stepmother, Sylvia Lawson. Familiar faces from our social circle dotted the crowd. Above, screens displayed various wedding photos of Victoria and Julian. Smiles she had never spared me were given freely here. Amidst the lively atmosphere, the officiant finally took the stage. The wedding began. It's no exaggeration to say I was more nervous than the bride and groom. My entire future hinged on this. I couldn't stand being the universally despised obsessive follower anymore. Call me vicious, I admitted. But call me an obsessive follower? That I couldn't tolerate. Julian, looking sharp in his suit, stood at the altar, his gaze fixed lovingly on his approaching bride. Look at President Vance's eyes, she's so in love. Ah, that look from President Vance is killing me. President Vance is stunning. Julian Hawthorne was a famous movie star, the nation's beloved idol. Because of this, Victoria had generously opened 100 spots for his fans to witness the ceremony live. The murmurs beside me likely belonged to them. Look, they're exchanging rings. My attention snapped back to the stage. Julian was sliding the wedding ring onto Victoria's finger. Watching his slow movement, I held my breath. Just a fraction of a second before the ring was fully on, Julian paused. His eyes shot directly towards my corner. I knew he'd spotted me. I hadn't expected him to let me off the hook, not even on a day as important as this. Sure enough, in the next second, Julian picked up the microphone. Chapter 2. Thank you all for coming to Victoria's and my wedding, Julian began. But there's someone special I also need to thank. Someone you all know. Heads turned, following Julian's gaze toward me. It took a moment for people to recognize me in the dim corner. And you all know, he continued, and that it wasn't easy for Victoria and me to reach this point. We faced many obstacles, as those familiar with us are aware. Yes, I was their obstacle, partly to fulfill the mission, partly for my own reasons. Sincere Clark, Julian addressed me directly, his voice resonating through the hall. I know you're unwilling to accept this, but I still have to say it. True love doesn't follow a first-come, first-served rule. Although you accompanied Victoria for a long time, she only ever felt familial affection for you, not romantic love. I hope you can find someone who treats you well in the future, he added. And thank you, Victoria, for always standing by my side. I could feel countless hostile glares fixed on me. A few people even moved closer, surrounding me, their faces contorted with resentment. This was exactly what Julian wanted, dragging me into the spotlight for a public lashing. Finally satisfied, Julian picked up the ring again and slid it onto Victoria's finger without hesitation. Seeing that, the tension in my chest finally eased. My heart settled. "President Vance and the idol are married now," one of the fans beside me hissed. "If you dare try to sabotage their relationship again, you vicious man, President Vance won't let you off." I looked at the young woman and nodded without hesitation. "Rest assured," I said, my voice dripping with mock sincerity, "I'd wish them nothing but the best. May they be locked together forever." Ding, a sound only I could hear echoed in my mind. "Congratulations, host, on successfully marrying Victoria Vance. Mission complete. Grand finale achieved. Confetti, confetti, host, your mission is finished. It's time for me to leave." "Where are you going next?" I asked silently. This was the voice of System 1807. I'd been able to hear it ever since it appeared 10 years ago, bound to Julian, its host. It had informed me of my role as the vicious villain. I'd tried to change my storyline, but it was futile. So I played my part, fulfilled the plot, waiting for it to leave. I'm off to another world, okay, 1807. Thank you for giving me a new life. "You're welcome. Host, take care of yourself from now on. I won't be back." Understood. The voice faded. It seemed 1807 was truly gone. With 1807 gone, the real vicious villain could finally emerge. Before leaving the venue, my eyes met Julian's across the room. I offered him a faint, knowing smile. "Your good days are finally over." Chapter 3. The first thing I did upon returning to my apartment was discard everything from my past life and call movers. Then, I sent a message to the contact pinned at the top of my chat list. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. For 10 years, I had diligently played the role of the vicious villain. If the plot required me to heat things up between the main characters, then so be it, I'd be the tool. But now, the grand finale was over. Without the plot's control, who knew what could happen next? Everything I'd been forced to give away as a pawn, I would reclaim, piece by piece. First on the list, Victoria Vance's current position. 3 days passed. The buzz around Victoria and Julian's wedding remained high, everyone discussing the wedding of the century. Julian was already leveraging the publicity to break into international markets, getting his name seen by a wider audience. After the wedding, it was customary for the newlyweds to visit their families. I decided to go back too. I could hear laughter from outside the house. I could picture the harmonious scene within without even stepping inside. But I was here specifically to be the killjoy. Julian was the first to react. "Sincere's back, we were just talking about you. It's been too long since we all sat down for a meal together." He gestured warmly. "Since you're here, you can join us." "Great," I replied, forcing a smile. Seeing their strained cheerfulness felt like swallowing sludge, yet paradoxically, my mood lifted. The air suddenly felt sweeter. "Oh, now that you're back," my father, Frederick Clark, interjected sternly, "try to get along with your brother. Don't pull any more stunts. They're legally married now. If you interfere, you'll be nothing but the other man." I looked intently at my biological father. It was hard to believe these were words a father would say to his child. But I'd heard worse from him. Now that I no longer cared, his words couldn't hurt me. "Of course," I said coolly. "I wouldn't dream of doing something so degrading as interfering with a married couple." Frederick's face visibly darkened. Just then, the housekeeper, Martha Miller, announced that dinner was ready, momentarily diffusing the tension. However, as soon as I sat down, Julian spoke up again. "Mama is used to sitting there," he said with feigned gentleness, indicating my chosen seat. "Since Sincere likes it, maybe Mama can find another spot?" I gave Julian a look that was anything but amused. He returned it with a warm smile, but I knew the ugliness lurking beneath that facade. Sylvia Lawson, my stepmother, chimed in with an indifferent smile. "If Sincere likes it, let him have it." Even Victoria frowned at me disapprovingly. Sincere, you're still so unrepentant. Chapter 4. Slam my hand hit the table. "'Tis is my house who told you I need to defer to outsiders when eating in my own home? If you want to eat, eat. If not, get out." The sudden outburst startled everyone in the dining room. No one seemed to expect me to fight back, especially not against Victoria, the person everyone thought I loved hopelessly. In the past, I was rebellious, but only ever listened to Victoria. She used to flaunt this power. "See? Even the rich heir does whatever I say." Everyone assumed I wouldn't resist or refuse her. But they seemed to forget I used to have an edge. Even after 10 years of playing the obsessive follower, that edge hadn't disappeared. I'd merely hidden it. Now liberated, I would naturally prioritize my own comfort. No more compromising myself. "Sincere Clark, have you lost your mind?" Frederick roared, slamming his hand on the table even harder, making my own hand throb. "Do you believe I won't kick you out?" I secretly rubbed my stinging palm under the table. The dramatic gesture felt good, but damn, it hurt. In the past, under the plot's control, I would have started apologizing. The villain archetype craved love, especially paternal love, so the threat of being thrown out always worked on me. Frederick had held that power over me, but there was no plot anymore. "Father," I said evenly, "I seem to have forgotten something. The name on the deed to this villa is Sincere Clark." Frederick froze as if struck. Sylvia, sensing trouble, quickly jumped in. "Sincere, don't joke around. The title deed is locked safely in the vault. Your father can't take such jokes." Frederick seemed to recover, slapping the table again. "Wretch. All right, my friendly reminder wasn't believed. No point wasting more time. Martha, serve the food. And says right away, eldest young master," Martha replied quickly. "What eldest young master? Call him second young master." Frederick snapped, but Martha was already heading to the kitchen. Martha's cooking was as delicious as ever. Julian's face was pale. Clearly, hearing Martha call me eldest young master had struck a nerve. "Or perhaps, father," I mused, taking a bite, "are you planning to add Julian Hawthorne to the official family registry?" Julian was Frederick and Sylvia's son, 3 months older than me. "Father," I continued softly, "and do I need to remind you? The Shen legacy belongs to Catherine Clark. It's her family name associated with the corporation, not Frederick Clark's. Catherine Clark, a gentlewoman, sadly naive in love, who fell for a social climber like Frederick. Her ending, naturally, was tragic." Chapter 5. Since no one believed the villa was in my name, I decided to give them a grand surprise. I contacted agents to have them legally removed from my house. Then, I hired a cleaning service to scrub the place from top to bottom. The flowers in the garden, all ripped out and replaced with a vegetable patch. The Sincere Clark from before he turned 18 couldn't have been the legal owner, but the Sincere Clark after 18 certainly could. While you were enjoying your lavish lifestyle, I was biding my time, recuperating, waiting for the right moment to strike back. When my phone rang again insistently, I simply turned it off. Tempting as it was to go and kick them while they were down, villains often die from talking too much. The priority now was to bring down the male and female leads. Julian had started working on a new film set. Victoria, newly appointed at the company before her inevitable demotion, hadn't finished making her initial mark yet. I decided to give her a little push from behind. Let them tear each other apart first, I'd pick up the pieces later. Frederick still showed up at my door with Sylvia in tow. Being the figurehead CEO of Shen Corp for so long hadn't been for nothing. He still had connections and a certain presence. He tried to slap me the moment he saw me. I blocked his hand and redirected the blow, landing it squarely on Sylvia's face. I'd wanted to do that for a very long time. She was the last straw that broke my mother's spirit. Knowing my mother was bedridden, Sylvia had brazenly moved into our home with Julian, declaring herself the new mistress of the house. She'd shoved the paternity test results in my mother's face. My mother couldn't catch her breath after that, literally dying of anger and grief. And Sylvia's final words? I didn't know sister was so seriously ill. 3 months after my mother's death, Sylvia was officially welcomed into the family. That was the first time I met Julian, and the first time I heard the system's voice. I didn't believe it, tried to fight back by exposing my father and Sylvia's affair. Initially, they faced online backlash, but then Julian went live, weeping, spinning a tale about Sylvia and my father being childhood sweethearts tragically separated because a wealthy heiress my mother forced my father into marriage. In the end, my deceased mother was slandered, while her enemies gained sympathy and a positive reputation. That was when Julian's career truly took off, transitioning from child star to national idol. My own actions, guided by the system, had inadvertently fueled his rise. Chapter 6. Sylvia was stunned by the slap. As Frederick moved to strike again, I quickly landed 2 more slaps on Sylvia's face. "Father?" I asked innocently. "What are you doing?" Frederick finally processed what happened, his eyes blazing with fury. "Villainous spawn, she's your elder." Slap another swift hit to Sylvia's face. "What was that, father? I didn't quite hear you. And you, Frederick sputtered, enraged but hesitant, eyeing the baseball bat I'd conveniently found earlier. "Tell me," he finally demanded, his voice tight, "what's going on with that house? How could it possibly be in your name?" "Feeling generous," I explained. "The villa was originally registered under my mother's name. Upon her death, all her assets were left to me, inheritable once I reached adulthood. Frederick had long coveted these assets and demanded I transfer them to his name before I turned 18, claiming he would manage them for my safekeeping. So, I consulted with lawyers and made arrangements. Thankfully, despite being naive in love, my mother hadn't set her child up for ruin. Also, I added casually, to name on the title deed was Shen Yu a legal maneuver, partly to bypass the system's restrictions. Frederick and Sylvia looked dazed, processing the information. Seeing their pained expressions filled me with satisfaction. Feeling chatty again, I couldn't resist adding, "Father, you couldn't even succeed as a proper social climber. How dare you bring your mistress into the house so brazenly?" Their faces instantly turned thunderous. Perfect. No more time wasted on them. I shut the door and went back to catch up on sleep. I contacted over a dozen major bloggers and anonymously sent them all the dirt I had on Julian Hawthorne. The internet truly is a double-edged sword. Julian once used it to smear my name, now that same sword was turning against him. However, before Julian's scandals could fully ignite, I was trending again. "Vicious villain strikes again," seeing the headline. I almost wanted to congratulate the netizen who wrote it. Truly talented, perfectly capturing my persona. The content was predictable. Sincere Clark disrespects his elders, not only hitting his stepmother, but also kicking his father out of the house. Julian was the national idol, and Sylvia basked in his reflected glory, becoming the national stepmother. They often appeared on variety shows together, portraying an enviable mother-son relationship, lauded for being closer than many biological families despite having no blood ties. This made Sylvia a quasi-public figure herself. This incident shouldn't have blown up online, but it was an uncanny coincidence. Sylvia had called Julian, crying about what happened, while he happened to be live streaming. The news exploded. It played right into my hands. I was afraid it wouldn't get enough attention. Simultaneously, other headlines erupted. Explosive Julian Hawthorne scandals. National Idol exposed. This is who he really is. National Idol accused of bullying. Exposing the National Idol's hidden secrets. Julian Hawthorne cries. Wolf Chapter 7. Julian dominated the trending topics with 5 separate entries appearing overnight. By the time his team noticed, the posts had been shared and saved countless times. It was too late to effectively suppress the news. So, the next morning, Julian woke up to a massive blow. He knew he possessed incriminating information about himself, but he thought he'd handled all the involved parties, silencing them completely. He couldn't understand how it still got out. I chuckled in front of my screen. Of course, it was because I existed, meticulously collecting evidence of his past transgressions, all for this very day. The trending topics were quickly taken down, and his PR team deployed paid commenters and bots to flood the internet with clarifications and denials. I knew this alone wouldn't be enough, but these incidents would plant seeds of doubt in the minds of some netizens. While many fans publicly declared their unwavering belief in their idol, Julian visibly lost 3 million followers almost overnight. A fraction of his total fan base perhaps, but significant nonetheless. Julian and Victoria were now tied together. Her company inevitably suffered from the fallout. Its stock plummeted overnight. Victoria was thrown into chaos. Initially furious, she gradually calmed down under Julian's comforting words. They rationalized that too many people were watching them now, and plenty wished them ill. With the plot's conclusion, the oppressive force weighing on me seemed to vanish. Everything I did now flowed smoothly. Without their protagonist halos, the main characters were just ordinary people. Julian's film wrapped up. I deliberately showed up at the restaurant where they were having their wrap party dinner. "Sincere," Victoria demanded, spotting me instantly. "What are you doing here?" Of course, it was intentional. I shot a provocative glance directly at Julian, then turned and walked away without a word. I knew he would follow. Sure enough, as I turned a corner, Julian called out behind me. "Sincere, that stuff online, that was you, wasn't it?" Undisguised malice radiated from him. I didn't bother denying my actions. "Sincere, it's useless," he sneered. "Stop struggling. You can't beat me. It was true 10 years ago, and it's true now." He stepped closer. "Besides, you have nothing left now. What makes you think you can fight me?" Julian was a master hypocrite. This nasty, private persona was his true self. "Julian," I retorted, my voice laced with contempt. "More fans really should see you like this. Truly disgusting." I blocked the punch he threw in his fury and hit him back hard. Honestly, punching someone felt really satisfying. "And how do you know I have nothing?" I pressed, lowering my voice. "Is it because of your little system 1807? Seeing the shock register in Julian's eyes was gratifying. A decade of pent-up frustration began to release, but it wasn't enough. "Why on earth would you think some unknown entity could defeat me?" I scoffed. "Because you're the male lead? A male lead who needs outside help to win isn't much of a lead at all." I leaned in. "Julian, enjoy these last few good days. Don't be so naive." Julian seemed genuinely frightened. He stopped appearing near me and vanished from social media, leaving his fans clamoring for updates in the comment sections. With him temporarily subdued, I turned my attention to Victoria's company. Chapter 8. Victoria appeared before me almost immediately. Someone must have secretly tipped her off. After all, I was practically a permanent fixture online, the constantly vilified vicious villain. In the past, chasing Victoria meant frequently showing up at the company to make my presence known. Now, the vicious villain was here to inspect his own company. "Sincere, why are you here?" Victoria's tone was sharp. "I'm married now. Please have some self-respect." I noticed colleagues nearby pretending to work while sneakily gossiping and typing on their phones. "President Vance, don't be like that," I replied smoothly. "But we're going to be excellent colleagues." As the company's largest shareholder, coming to work seemed perfectly reasonable. That day, I officially entered the company as Sincere Clark, stunning everyone. Settling into Victoria's former office, I took a deep, satisfying breath and called my assistant to have everything inside replaced. Victoria stood there, seething. "Sincere, don't push it too far." I spun around in the chair and casually knocked a ceramic cup off the desk. It shattered on the floor. "President Vance." "Oh, apologies, I mean Vice President Vance," I said with a chilling smile. "I look forward to working closely with you." In the past, I wouldn't have dared reveal myself, knowing the plot's power would crush me. The plot's force was terrifying. But the Sincere Clark of today, He was formidable. Victoria stormed out furious. Feeling exceptionally pleased, I ordered afternoon tea for the entire staff and gave everyone a 2-day break. Next step, call a shareholders meeting. But first, I needed to go home and recharge. On the day of the shareholders meeting, Victoria arrived looking refreshed, her previous dejection gone. Accompanying her were Frederick Clark, Sylvia Lawson, and Julian Hawthorne. Sitting at the head of the table, I had a clear view of everyone's expressions. My first act was to call security and politely ask them to remove all non-essential personnel from the boardroom. "Sincere, why are you kicking us out?" "Father agreed we could be here," Julian protested. "On shareholder meetings aren't for any Tom, Dick, or Harry," I stated coolly. "Mr. Hawthorne, this isn't a film set. Security, please escort them out." See how kind I was? I didn't even have them physically thrown out. Very considerate. Chapter 9. The meeting proceeded exactly as I'd anticipated. No one supported me. They all argued that Victoria was the most suitable person for the position, and I should return it to her. My eyes swept over the few individuals who were most vocal. So Mr. Clark, one of them, Harold Harrison, spoke up. "Wouldn't ACEC. Right person should be in the right position. With all due respect, I don't believe you are suited for this." Victoria chose that moment to chime in, playing the magnanimous one. "Sincere, if you wanted a job, you could have just told me. I could have arranged something for you. What you're doing, well, it doesn't bother me personally, but it disrupts the work of everyone in this company. Not everyone has the luxury of being financially secure like you." I nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. We can't let individuals jeopardize the livelihoods of our employees, which is precisely why, Ms. Vance, you shouldn't remain at this company any longer." I turned to Mr. Harrison. "And Mr. Harrison, regarding your earlier statement about suitability, I have something to tell you as well. Never covet what isn't yours. Even if you believe you are the most suitable person, if it doesn't belong to you, it never will." Then, addressing the entire room, my voice grew firm. "And I want to remind all of you, the Shen in Shen Corporation stands for Catherine Clark, not Frederick Clark, and it certainly will never carry the surname Vance." My gaze landed on Victoria. "Oh, girl. My mother sponsored out of misguided charity. What right does she have to covet what belongs to the family estate?" Victoria was just one of the many needy girls my mother had helped. Her capabilities were undeniable, but Shen Corporation cannot employ someone who repays kindness with betrayal. 10 years ago, if the system hadn't appeared, I wouldn't have even noticed Victoria Vance. For uncontrollable factors, keeping them under close watch is the safest approach. Call it chasing her for 10 years, I call it surveillance. I heard that Victoria and Julian had a massive argument after returning home. Julian blamed Victoria for her incompetence, for not discovering such a significant loophole, leaving them blindsided. Victoria blamed Julian for being unable to handle a fool like me, and for failing to secure Frederick's loyalty after all these years in the Clark household. But honestly, what good would controlling Frederick do? The few shares he held were insignificant, and a man as selfish as him would never willingly hand over what little power he possessed. A new leader lights 3 fires. My first fire burned Victoria. I systematically pushed her out within the company. Now she held the title of vice president in name only. Less than 3 months into their marriage, the newlyweds were already arguing constantly. As I said, once the system left, your good days were over. Chapter 10. After a period of lying low, Julian started flaunting his life with the powerful female CEO online again. Checking the timing, I realized why. Quentin Clark was coming back. Quentin Clark, my mother's younger brother, my uncle. Predictably, Julian called me specifically to deliver the news, feigning concern. "Sincere, Quentin is coming back. You should talk to him properly, you know. Don't be like you were back then." He sounded earnest. "Don't worry, I'll definitely put in a good word for you with Quentin. Tell him how much his big brother still cares. Julian, I cut him off flatly. Really are an idiot. I hung up without another word and sank onto the sofa, lost in memories. Back then, under the plot's control, the only significant thing I managed to do against its dictates was sending Quentin abroad, despite everyone's opposition. The plot's influence was confined domestically. Sending him overseas removed him from its control, making him a non-entity within the storyline. It was a crucial breakthrough, but it came at the cost of our relationship. Julian seized the opportunity, playing the caring figure, becoming closer to Quentin than I, his actual nephew, was allowed to be. The price for defying the plot was real. For 7 days my body wasn't my own. I was merely an NPC, a puppet. But ensuring Quentin's escape was worth it. That incident also cemented my reputation as vicious, a label that stuck with me ever since. With Quentin's return, Victoria seemed revitalized. She came back to work at the company. Why wouldn't she? Quentin was the largest shareholder, and apparently they had maintained contact over the years, fostering a bond closer than the one he shared with me, his own blood. The day Quentin arrived, Frederick and Sylvia, along with Victoria and Julian, gathered at the villa. Naturally, I had to be there too. Compared to the teenager I'd sent away, Quentin was taller, leaner, and undeniably more mature. Paler too from his time abroad, but his tongue was just as sharp. "So got darker," he observed, his eyes scanning me critically. "And fatter." That was the first thing he said to me. No emotional reunion, no joy, just the familiar sting of confrontation. I had gained a little weight recently, but it was barely noticeable, damn it. "Quentin dear, you're finally back," Sylvia gushed, rushing forward. "We missed you terribly, worried every day if you were eating properly, staying warm." She patted his arm. "And don't blame Sincere too harshly. He meant well, really." Quentin's expression soured further. He shot me a furious glare. I just shrugged helplessly. Kids hold grudges. Chapter 11. As Quentin continued to glare at me, Julian launched into an animated speech, likely trying to play the concerned older brother figure. His chatter droned on until Quentin finally snapped, "Shut up!" The living room fell instantly silent. "Quentin," Frederick started, attempting to mediate. "That's your elder brother," referring to Julian. "You shut up too." Quentin cut him off sharply. His gaze still locked on me, though the words were for Frederick. "My mind is perfectly clear. I know exactly how many nephews my mother gave me." He punctuated the statement with another glare in my direction. Frederick, who dared to yell at me, didn't dare provoke Quentin. He remembered all too well the time Quentin's fist sent him to the hospital for half a month. Quentin genuinely wasn't afraid to hit anyone, regardless of who they were. He had no concept of sparing the fairer sex either. Sylvia could attest to that, having suffered a near-nervous breakdown from his torment shortly after she moved in. Consequently, no one dared to cross him anymore. And this very person, if the original plot had unfolded, would have met a tragic end. I was too young back then, unable to protect my mother, but I absolutely could not lose the only family my mother left me. They had all expected Quentin's return to ignite a fierce battle between us, allowing them to sit back and reap the benefits while we destroyed each other. After all, everyone had witnessed how terribly strained our relationship appeared when he left. However, what they got instead was Quentin and me putting on a show, playing good cop, bad cop, while systematically purging the company of internal spies, people loyal to Julian and Victoria, as well as those planted by Frederick and Sylvia. It was quite amusing, really. Two married couples, riddled with mutual suspicion, both coveting things that didn't belong to them. Chapter 12. The very day the system left, I sent Quentin a message, "You can come home now." Our argument back then wasn't entirely fake. He hadn't wanted to leave me alone in the country, but the plot couldn't deviate too drastically without triggering unknowns, and the unknown was the most terrifying prospect. We disagreed, and I forcefully sent him away. That conveniently created the illusion that our relationship was irreparably broken. I'm not leaving again. Quentin muttered petulantly beside me now, the cool facade momentarily dropping to reveal the kid underneath. You're too annoying. I smiled faintly and ruffled his hair. It won't happen again. The system won't be back. Julian hit the trending topics again. Now that he was on his own, the number of people he'd offended over the years surely outnumbered mine. I might be vicious, but I hadn't directly harmed others' interests for my own gain. Julian, however, was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Without the system propping him up, it was only a matter of time before his misdeeds came to light. Thinking back, the system's final words sounded more like a warning than a blessing. Only Julian, in his foolishness, took it as encouragement. After all, the system couldn't control events beyond the plot's predetermined ending. Sincere, it was you again. Julian burst into my apartment, catching me completely off guard while I was sneakily eating some incredibly pungent cheese I'd hidden away. If Quentin found out, I'd be in deep trouble. What is that disgusting smell? Julian recoiled, wrinkling his nose. That's because you don't know how to appreciate the finer things, I retorted, trying to hide the evidence. Sincere, take down those online scandals about me. Now do you hear me? I swear I'll sue you for slander. The gentle idol was gone, replaced by a frantic, cornered man. It wasn't me, I stated calmly. If I were behind this latest wave, it would have been much worse. But if not you, then who? Only you hate me this much. And shouldn't I hate you? Is it not deserved? I paused. Since you're so convinced it was me, I happen to have something interesting to share. Since the man himself is here, perhaps you can clarify if it's true. I retrieved a thick stack of documents from my room and handed them to Julian. He scanned them dismissively at first, but his eyes widened as he flipped through the pages faster and faster, finally scattering the documents all over the floor in a panic. Where did you get these? How do you have them? I told 1807 to destroy all of this, he shrieked. Why do you still have them? Ignoring his meltdown, I picked up a sheet, casually reading aloud while finishing my cheese, occasionally pausing to ask the frantic man on the floor for confirmation. National Idol caught doing this? Is this moral decay or human depravity? 01V3, I raised an eyebrow. I didn't realize you were that kind of person, Julian. Does Victoria know? Shut up. Julian screamed, lunging to snatch the papers from my hand, ripping them to shreds and throwing the pieces wildly around the room. Tear it all up, it's all fake. I shrugged nonchalantly. Tear away. I have plenty more copies. Julian froze, then crumpled. Sincere, I'm begging you, he choked out, tears streaming down his face. Don't release this. It will destroy me. He fell to his knees. Sincere, I was wrong. Please, let me go, all right? I won't fight you anymore. I'll dye that stuff. It's deadly. I slowly wiped my mouth clean, then leaned down, looking directly at the pathetic figure kneeling before me. I told you before, Julian, what's mine will always be mine. You can never take it away. My voice turned cold. As for forgiving you, impossible. Do you remember how my mother begged you back then? And what did you and Sylvia do? My voice trembled slightly with remembered fury. You drove her to her death, literally killed her with anger. And do I need to list out everything you've done to me over the past 10 years? My dear brother, the title dripped with sarcasm. Speaking of which, you two really had the netizens fooled, didn't you? Got addicted to playing mother-son cosplay with your actual mother, did you? Did you forget you're the mistress's son? I grasped his chin, forcing him to look at me. Julian, I told you you're an idiot. Without 1807, you would never have gotten this far. I released his chin with disgust. Time to get rid of the cheese evidence. But before I could move, the front door opened, and Quentin walked in. He stopped short, staring. Me, the incriminating cheese remnants, and the sobbing, disheveled Julian Hawthorne kneeling between us. Quentin and I locked eyes across the room. Quentin, I began quickly. Let me explain. I'm listening, Quentin replied, his expression unreadable. And to your excuses. Chapter 13. Julian scrambled to his feet, wiping away tears, his eyes filled with venomous hatred. Sincere, this isn't the end. We'll see who gets the last laugh. Perhaps. I tilted my head, gesturing towards my phone, which was propped up nearby. But Julian, I'm live streaming. Julian froze, struck dumb. His eyes darted to my phone, wide with disbelief. A blood-curdling scream tore from his throat as he turned and fled the apartment. Julian Hawthorne's world imploded. The meticulously crafted image of the national idol shattered instantly, broadcast live for all to see. The beloved mother-son act with Sylvia, once so lauded, now backfired spectacularly. All the previous praise curdled into furious condemnation, and with Julian's fall, Frederick Clark's carefully constructed good man image crumbled too. The public sympathy he'd garnered by playing the victim of my wealthy heiress mother evaporated, replaced by disgust. All the positive press built upon lies about his noble suffering bounced back tenfold. Shen Corporation's stock plummeted further. The official website was inundated with angry messages. His entire persona, the wronged husband who nobly forbore revenge against his wife, was exposed as a fraud built on exploiting my mother's death. Ultimately, they reaped what they had sown. As they frantically began selling off their shares to cut their losses, Quentin and I quietly bought them up at rock-bottom prices. Not even a shred of what belonged to the Clark family, via Catherine Clark, would remain in outsiders' hands. "What are you going to do next?" Quentin asked later, once the chaos subsided. I was more than happy to leave the company in Quentin's capable hands. They weren't wrong about one thing: I wasn't suited for the daily grind of corporate life. I was much better suited to lying back and counting my money. My next move, I wanted to live for myself for once. No one knew that all this time I had secretly loved someone. Someone kept hidden deep in my heart, untouchable. That was the person I truly wanted. Someone I had lost along the way. Now I didn't know if I could ever get them back, but I had to try. And if gentle persistence didn't work, well, there was always relentless pursuit.